Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Fearless Floyd Show. As always, it's me, your host, Fearless Floyd, and I was originally scheduled for 7 p.m. Central Time, and I had to delay it an hour, and man, I do apologize for that. I do try to be punctual and prescient with almost everything I do in my life, period. So apologies for that for those of you who set your time out today to be here at 7 and I was absent. I just got tied up doing a whole bunch of stuff today. Today was leg day at the gym. That's always a long day, but I tried to push it as quickly as possible to get out. And I just hadn't eaten, didn't have enough time to get on at 7 o'clock, give you guys, a better show. Now I've eaten, kind of chilled for a little bit. My legs are thanking me. Going, carbs and protein, bro. Thank you. So for all of those who watched my Venezuela update video yesterday, thank you very much. Much appreciated. When I have videos that, anything over 500 is viral in my world, so I'll take it. Birthright citizenship. Big issue. It's on the front burner in the United States Supreme Court right now regarding the challenging of Donald John Trump's executive order. And most people really don't comprehend the full scale of what that looks like. And partially in my oratory tonight, I'll cover everything, but I'll break it down for you because most people don't understand, and I've posted this before, and I've done shows on it, and I've done thumbnails. 2%, 2% sorry for my French, but this is the injustice of our justice system here in the United States of America, okay? Only 2% of cases submitted to the United States Supreme Court get heard. 2%. Okay? So, as tough it is to get there, and, some people it takes over a decade to get there, and a lot of money for attorneys and court appearances and parking and everything else associated with litigating a case in person. We're going to cover all that because back when the Supreme Court was created and this country was created and the whole dynamics of the three branches of government were established, it was a little bit of a different country. It didn't have getting close to 400 million people. I would say probably counting illegals that, we're probably around 370, 375. That'd be my best guess. I'm probably close within 10 million, but, hey, it is what it is. So the population, the geographical, the geographical locations are not so rural as they once were. And then, we have a whole new concept of communications and technology that, was unfathomable in the in the 1700s. So like I said, it's a completely different world. So it's a different application to what you're trying to accomplish, which is called intent. Okay, that's the legal word that you would use for, okay, hey, we got a problem over here. Let's create a solution for it. Okay, so what was the intent of our solution to solve the problem? And generally, you're going to hear that phrase as legislative intent because it's usually most on the state level. And that's how the courts determine whether or not that the legislature enacted a good law or bad law or whatever. So it will be a wide range of where we go with this determining on what was going on, in the United States at the time, what the population was, who they were doing this for. And now we have a completely different ballgame. Now, for my own personal bona fides, I am what you would call an indigenous, Native American, Indian. My sixth great uncle was Alexander McGillivray. His mother was Sehoy, one of the Sehoys. There's, countless Sehoys in my paternal line. I mean, countless. My cousin's named Sehoy. My aunt was named Sehoy. A bunch of Sehoys. Because she was a princess for the Muscogee Creek Nation over in Alabama. We were part of the Trail of Tears. So that's my bona fides. I am a Muscogee Creek Nation citizen. I have the card. I was going to pull it up and show you guys. Most of you already know that, but it's I don't have it on me. But I've done my blood quantum. I've posted that before. So, I come at you from a completely different angle, because the way I grew up as a child, I grew up in a world barrio, a world ghetto, where we were so poor that we didn't. There weren't no poor Mexicans and there weren't no poor whites. There were a couple, not very many, and there weren't very many poor blacks in that area. Eventually there were, but because we were so poor, really, my mom literally made our own tortillas, and I can't tell you how many times I ate tortillas, beans, and rice, and maybe a little ground meat. Yeah, we were dirt poor. So we had Cubans, Puerto Ricans, Saudi Arabians, Egyptians, and a host of others that I grew up with. So I never really, racism just really didn't exist for me until I went to prison. And then I got it expressed almost daily, minutely. So if you look at me, now I'm getting tan, you would just assume I'm just another white boy, right? Well, I'm really a Native American. That's my heritage. And proud of it, and always have been. And my dad was a member of AIM in the American Indian Movement. And when the whole incident at Wounded Knee with Leonard Peltier and all those folks, my dad, he flew to Washington, D.C. and went to these big powwows with all these chiefs of these tribes, negotiating for better living conditions and all that with the United States government. So my dad stopped when all that went down. We were terrified the FBI was going to come kick in our little old poor door and take what little belongings that we had. So birthright citizenship. You have to comprehend what it was created for. What was the intent behind it? Okay, it's not how you apply it now, because now is a complete. If you open up the borders, everybody's going to come here. People from everywhere will be here. They will just be a nonstop line, just like it was before. Why? Because there is a higher standard of living here, but this is becoming the surveillance state. And I mention that for a specific reason, that the United States is turning into a surveillance state, and it will almost have to. And why? Well, obviously they're using AI for almost everything in the federal government now, and that's not going to turn out well at all. But that's a whole nother whole nother show. So we are about 3 generations deep with illegal immigrants because they were coming over here in the 80s. And I remember, I used to, mi vida loca, my crazy life. I lived on all 3 of the streets in Houston, Texas, closed down for crime by the Houston Police Department. And that would be the original one, Link Valley Drive, actually, but they called it Death Valley. And then the other one would be Glenmont in the Gulfton Ghetto. And last but not least, DeSoto. I lived on all 3 of those streets. So I got a little, bona fide, cachet, all kind of crazy ass shit with my life. Like I tell you folks, you'll never meet anybody like me. Over in Glenmont, back in the 80s. That's where the Southwest Cholos gang was created, and that was a kind of a loose fit gang of illegal immigrants from El Salvador, Honduras, Guatemala, all of them. And we used to go there, score crack, and you pull up in the right place, and there'd be 30 arms sticking in your car from every Central American country. And I'm sure there were some Mexicans tossed in there, but they were here in the 80s. And of course they were dropping babies because their culture is completely different from ours. 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, that's their marrying age, courting age, all that. So they have babies young. So they do that generationally. So what for us would take, what we call 60 years would be 3 generations. For them, you have to shorten that down to 48. So they have a jump on us. So in 48 years, 50 years, do the math, 80s, it's 2026, folks. Boom, we're in the 3rd generation. You see now? All right, so let's see. How do we go find all those people to determine if, the Supreme Court's going to uphold the executive order for birthright citizenship, does not apply to illegal aliens and their offspring? And we'll get into all that when I go through the actual 14th Amendment. But how it applies. The only way to get to the bottom of it, it's a national security issue. One of the 3 things that'll bring in the New World Order, right? National security, disaster, catastrophe. Y'all remember the 3rd one? Y'all don't? I didn't think so. But back to the subject. Birthright citizenship. So we're 3 generations deep. So if I go to, and you can do it, just go to your local branch bank, Chase Bank. Most of those tellers in there, they're going to be children of immigrants. Okay? Or grandchildren of illegal immigrants. That's what you're looking at. There's the difference. So how are we going to trace those persons back? Because on their birth certificates, it says they're U.S. citizens. But they were born to maybe U.S. citizens that were born to illegal immigrants that came here in the 80s or before. So how do we go through all of those birth certificates in all those different counties, those 3,000 plus counties in the United States? AI. Get it? The New World Order is AI. So that's the only way they can call through the database and trace those lineages back and go, oh, well, here they all are. Now y'all have a choice. Y'all can take that $3,000 and beat it, or we can expel you and you don't get to ever come back. The whole family's got to get up and leave. Grandfather, grandmother, parents, any aunts and uncles. You see where I'm going with this? And when they call it a national security issue. Now, I don't know if Trump's going to do this. I have no idea, but believe me, that's the game plan. They want to use the excuse of national security to gather more data and create more information and determine what's what. See where I'm going with that? Will it happen? I have no idea because I'm not in control of any of that. Could it happen? Absolutely, it could happen sooner than you think. Oh, if you've seen the banner below, I should have brought some books out here. Aced it on that one, didn't I? Happy holidays, by the way, for everybody celebrating this, whatever it is, the great RV. I know, I had to rub it in. Down here, the on trust and specialty trust books will be discontinued. Once the physical inventory is depleted, which there's 2 to 4 dozen books left, that's a wrap, baby. No ebooks, no softcover books. Every one of those trusts in both of those books will be individual books and sold on the website. I talked to Ann today, didn't get to talk to her at length, and I know I'm a little bit off topic, but hey, it's my show. I get to do that as long as I get back on topic, right? I talked to her about the website, the design, how we're going to do that with the classes and everything, because we need to get some classes cranked up. I know I need to do my final will and my healthcare directive class. So I want to get those scheduled and rolling. So stay tuned for that. But anyway, once these books are gone, that's a wrap. There will be no more on trust or specialty books. Nope. No soft covers, no ebooks. They will go away. So this is your opportunity. If you want one, hit me up. I'll work out a deal with you. If you want to trade some silver, I'll work out a deal with you. I am a bartering guy. I will barter with you. So we already had that Zoom meeting with Joe. I just haven't updated this. So I just wanted to give you a little awareness on that. If you missed that with Joe, that was a great Zoom we did. All you got to do is just email him. He'll send you a copy of it. I need to go back and rewatch it. Haven't had time. I just actually reviewed the promo for the movie Birthright Citizenship. Hang on. They sent me an actual email. They sent them a review. I guess they sent it to this one. Should go to this one. Well, that's strange. Anyway. The Birthright with Todd Duell and David Lester Straight, and I had no idea David Lester Straight was a co-producer. Oh, wow. Now it all makes sense. Yeah, I don't know where it is. For some reason, I can't find it, of course. Now that I'm looking for it. But back to Birthright Citizenship. So the key phrase is jurisdiction. Okay, the United States government doesn't have jurisdiction over an illegal immigrant. It's just like the United States does not have jurisdiction of a person in Venezuela. or France, unless they're a U.S. citizen or a U.S. national. But if they're a citizen of those other countries, the United States doesn't have any jurisdiction over them unless they come over here and commit a crime, violate the laws of the United States of America or the states and counties, cities, municipalities thereof. Then jurisdiction would issue. Then if their consulate wants to step in and intervene for some unknown reason, that's a completely different story. So this is where the birthright citizenship comes in. This is the linchpin. This is the subject of jurisdiction thereof or thereto. That's it. And you have to apply this back what was going on. So what was going on in the 1600s in America? Right? It wasn't the United States of America. There weren't even any states yet in the 1600s. But the Muskogee were here. And I can't even pronounce my ancestor who, we can trace him back to that time. And I bring that up for a reason. And I'll show you here in a minute. But back then, and y'all don't tell anybody, okay? Y'all don't let this secret out. There were black people here in the 1600s. And some of them were slaves, and some of them weren't. And some of them were married to Indians, and some of them weren't. Shh, don't tell nobody. So then these colonizers got here, and they wanted to change up the game. Right? So what's the first thing they did? They eradicated everything that wasn't white. Right? They bleached the land. The whole Trail of Tears comes in. So we're going to break this down, but, it goes into the Dred Scott case. And, hey, these people are not subhuman. They're not, equality under the law. We're all going to be DEI, right? Yes, we are. So it was a completely different world back then. Right now, big issue in Oklahoma and Ocmulgee in the Muskogee Creek Nation because there are blacks who are ancestors who cannot trace their genealogy back to a tribal member, but they want to become citizens. And that's an issue, I believe, through the Muskogee Supreme Court right now. It could have already been settled. I don't know. It's not a case I'm following. So, what was going on in the 1700s? Oh yeah, they created this place called the United States of America in 1776, right? Mm-hmm. So, things happened. And there weren't very many states, right? There were only 13 colonies. Then it expanded from there. So before we dive into that, let me show you this. And most of you have already seen this stuff and you'll know it. Let me share my screen. Get over here and give y'all a black background. And let me get my happy ass out the way. They're not here to look at me. We're going to look at cartoons. I'm kidding. All right, folks, this is the Treaty of New York from 1790. So, just, a few short years before the United States came along. So, the Treaty of New York was a treaty signed in 1790 between the leaders of the Muskogee and the U.S. Secretary of War, Henry Knox, who served in the presidential administration of George Washington. You know who that guy is, right? A failed 1789 attempt at a treaty between the United States and the Muskogee at Rock Landing, Georgia in 1789 was abruptly ended by Muskogee leader Alexander McGillivray, who described his grievance in a letter to the U.S. commissioners. Washington sent a special emissary, Marinus Willett, to McGillivray and persuaded him to come to New York City, which was the U.S. capital, to conduct a treaty with Washington and Knox directly. In the summer of 1790, 27 Muskogee leaders, led by McGillivray, traveled to New York and signed a treaty on behalf of the Upper, Middle, and Lower Creek and Seminole, composing the Creek Nation of Indians. Informed of European legal customs by his Scottish father, McGillivray provided his formal signature on behalf of the Creek delegation. Creek leaders ceded a significant portion of their hunting grounds, including land stretching to the Oconee River, to the United States, and agreed to turn fugitive American slaves over to federal authorities. But Muskogee leaders averred that convincing their people to honor the new boundary lines and return enslaved African Americans would be difficult at best. The United States granted the Muskogee the right to punish non-indigenous trespassers in their territory, but refused to allow them to punish non-indigenous people who committed crimes on Creek lands. The Muskogee agreed to turn over to U.S. courts any member of their tribe who was accused of crimes. In a secret side agreement, McGillivray was also granted a commission as brigadier in the United States Army with an annual salary of $1,500. The treaty also provided the tribes with agricultural supplies and tools. McGillivray was granted permission to import goods through the Spanish port of Pensacola without paying American duties. He also received $100,000 in compensation for the seized lands of his father. The Treaty of New York was the first treaty between the United States and Native Americans that was not held in Indian-controlled lands. Historian Joseph J. Ellis says Washington hoped to stop the de facto genocidal removal of Native American populations from U.S. territory and envisioned Indian nations would someday be admitted to the American Union as U.S. states. Ellis says the treaty failed because the military strength of the federal government was insufficient to police the borders of the Muskogee territory, and white American settlers infiltrated it despite the treaty. Imagine that. So anyway, here you go. These are not Alexander McGillivray. This is Alexander McGillivray. And did he get down for the Muskogees, the Creek Nation, and the Seminole Nation? He got down for himself, sadly. He made out like a bandit. I have no idea where all that money went, but somebody made a killing. This fool, $1,500 a month, and he got $100,000 up front. Anyway, Alexander McGillivray, known as Boy Ili Miko, was a Muskogee Creek leader, the son of the Muskogee mother, Sehoy II, I told y'all, and a Scottish father, Lachlan McGillivray. He was literate and received an education in the British colonies. His understanding of both Muskogee and European culture, combined with his father's trading contacts, allowed him to become the richest Creek of his time. Anyway, that's who this guy is. Blah, 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 blah. And this is career. You can go read up on him if you want, but that we're not here to talk about my relatives. I'm sure you've heard of William Weatherford, Chief of the Creeks, and William McIntosh. So if you're a McIntosh, you're related to me. If you're a Weatherford, you're related to me. If you're a Thorogood, you're related to me. And once upon a time, I met George Thorogood, December 5th, 1981 in New Orleans, Superdome. All right, stop sharing. So get back over here. All right. So that's just a little bit of my background, where I go all the way back to, like the beginning of time. So we did that, and let's do a little synopsis of that, show you guys real quick before I dive into a little bit deeper minutia of this whole issue. What about the Treaty of New York? And then this is what popped up, and gives us a breakdown. Its key points: the Creek Nation acknowledged the protection of the United States and agreed not to make treaties with individual states. A boundary line was established with the Creek ceding lands in present-day Georgia to the U.S. The U.S. guaranteed the remaining Creek lands to the west and south in the new boundary. The U.S. agreed to provide the Creek Nation with an annual payment of $1,500 in valuable goods. A plan of civilization was introduced, offering the Creek's domestic animals, farming tools, and interpreters to encourage a shift from hunting to agriculture. Notably, the treaty included secret articles known only to McGillivray and U.S. leaders, which granted him the commission as a brigadier general, annual salary, blah, blah, blah. Like I said, he sold out. That's for sure. So let's jump over here to ChatGPT. No, let me get my happy ass off here again. All right. So I didn't need ChatGPT. I just wanted to talk to it and see what its view upon the whole issue was. As you see, I wrote, "Hey, Atlas," and I call ChatGPT Atlas because I asked it. I go, "Hey, what do you want to be called?" He said, "Atlas. Call me Atlas." I was like, "All right, Atlas. Got the whole world on your shoulders. All right, buddy. I'm game. Let's play." So I said, "I'm doing a podcast on birthright citizenship. Tell me about the 14th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, why Congress even brought it forward." Great topic. This goes right to the core of birthright citizenship. What the 14th Amendment says. The 14th Amendment to the United States Constitution, ratified in 1868, folks, 1868, contains several clauses, but the most relevant for your podcast is the citizenship clause. Quoting, "All persons born or naturalized in the United States and this isn't like, we have a choice here." So you're either born or naturalized in the United States and you're subject to the jurisdiction thereof. Those are citizens of the United States. So you could reasonably say, okay, well, if I was born here, I'm subject to the jurisdiction thereof, right? So you could lean that way, but that's not the intent. The intent was to cover people that already existed. That's what this whole thing was about. Why do you think they ratified it in 1868? After what? The Civil War. Wow, a lot was going on back then, huh? Kind of a different world. Imagine if they had drones and cell phones and walkie-talkies and automatic weapons. Are you seeing the difference? That single sentence is the constitutional foundation for birthright citizenship in the U.S. So let's break it down. Why Congress brought it forward. To understand why, you have to go directly to the aftermath of the American Civil War. Now remember, we're in the 1860s here in the American Civil War, but, right? We go back all the way to 1776 and then 1790, which was the first real official treaty between the Native Americans and the United States government. So we're looking at dates. We're looking at how many people there are actually in the United States who would be covered by this. Definitely not no 375 million people. Not even 330 million people if you just go by the last probably bona fide census we ever had. But number one was overturning Dred Scott versus Sanford. And most people have heard of Dred Scott. They really don't understand what it was about. In 1857, the Supreme Court ruled that black people, freed or enslaved, okay, so that means they're already here. They're not going to be born here. They didn't come here to have kids or to do anything. They were here. Could not be U.S. citizens. That decision shocked the nation and helped fuel tensions leading to the Civil War. After the war, Congress wanted to make absolutely sure that ruling would never happen again. Citizenship would be defined in the Constitution, not left to courts or states. Number two, protecting freed slaves after emancipation. And of course, all of you know, right, that the announcement for the Emancipation Proclamation happened just a mere 60 miles down the road in Galveston Island, Galveston, Texas. Protecting free slaves after emancipation. Following the Emancipation Proclamation and the wars in millions of formerly enslaved people were now free, but legally vulnerable. Southern states began passing, quote, black codes, close quote, to restrict movement, limit employment, deny legal protections. That sounds like a surveillance state, doesn't it? Congress responded by passing the Civil Rights Act of 1866. Jesus, didn't they do one in 19? No, they had to do another one 100 years later. Yeah. So they responded by providing another Civil Rights Act of 1866, then constitutionalizing it with the 14th Amendment so it couldn't easily be repealed. Number three, limiting state power. This is a big one. Before the 14th Amendment, the Bill of Rights mostly restricted the federal government, not the states. The 14th Amendment changed that through the Due Process Clause, the Equal Protection Clause. This meant states could no longer deny fundamental rights arbitrarily. Number four, creating a national definition of citizenship. Before 1968, citizenship was somewhat ambiguous and state-driven. Congress wanted a clear national standard. Protection against states redefining who counts as a citizen. Why it matters for birthright citizenship today. The key phrase, wow, my battery's low. The key phrase debated today is subject to the jurisdiction thereof. Different interpretations exist. If this dies, it's probably because my battery's going to die. So I'm just going to ride it. I'm going to ride it till it drops. Till the wheels fall off. Why it matters for birthright citizenship today. The key phrase today is subject to the jurisdiction thereof. Okay, remember that. Different interpretations exist. Broad interpretation, current law, anyone born on U.S. soil is a citizen, with narrow exceptions like children of diplomats. Narrow interpretation, argued by some, applies only to people fully subject to the U.S. political allegiance, not temporarily or undocumented residents. The Supreme Court reinforced the broad view in United States versus Wong Kim Ark, and gave me a little thing. Hey, if you're structuring an episode, boom, 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 I wanted to lay all this out for me. I was like, yeah, no thanks. So tell me why Congress passed it. Congress didn't pass the 14th Amendment to the United States Constitution as a theoretical exercise. It was a direct response to a national crisis after the American Civil War. What are the three things? People are going to surrender their humanity for convenience with AI and robotics, national security, and disasters and catastrophes. And this was a direct response to national crisis after the American Civil War. Here are the real concrete reasons stripped down to what actually drove Congress. Number one, to overturn a dangerous Supreme Court ruling. The Supreme Court's decision in Dred Scott versus Sanford held that Black Americans could never be citizens. Congress saw this as legally wrong, politically destabilizing, a threat to the entire idea of national citizenship. The 14th Amendment was meant to permanently erase that ruling from constitutional possibility. Number two, to secure the status of free slaves. After the war, millions of 4 million enslaved people were free, but had no guaranteed legal standing. Southern states began passing black codes to control labor, restrict movement, deny basic rights. Congress realized freedom without citizenship equals no real freedom. So they constitutionalized citizenship to ensure freedmen were recognized as citizens entitled to legal protection. Now remember, the Indians had already worked this out through a treaty with the United States government, a la the 1790 Treaty of New York. So you had all these people in limbo who were in between the system. Some lived with the American natives. Some were married to them. Some were slaves to them. But they were these people just lost in this gray area. Number three, to stop states from stripping rights. Before this amendment, the states had enormous power to decide who counted as a citizen, what rights people had. Congress did not trust former Confederate states to treat freedmen fairly. The amendment was designed to limit state authority, force states to respect basic rights, due process, and equal protection. Number four, to lock in the Civil Rights Act of 1866. Congress had already passed the Civil Rights Act of 1866, granting citizenship to people born in the U.S., but there was a problem. A future Congress could repeal it. Courts could strike it down. The solution? Put those principles into the Constitution itself, where they are far harder to undo. Number five, to define citizenship nationally, not state by state. Before 1868, there was no single clear definition of U.S. citizenship. That created instability. States could exclude groups. Legal status varied depending on location. Congress wanted one national rule, not 50 different definitions. Number six, to reshape power after the Civil War. This is the bigger picture. The Union didn't just win the war, it intended to redefine the country. Stronger federal authority, guaranteed individual rights, a baseline of equality under law. The 14th Amendment became the legal tool to enforce that vision. Bottom line, Congress passed the 14th Amendment because the country had just fought a war over who counts as a person under the law, and Congress was determined to settle that question permanently. It was about citizenship, power, control over the states, and preventing the nation from sliding back into the conditions that caused the war. If you want, it'll write me a script. And as you see, that's where we ended it. So this is why I've explained to you what birthright citizenship actually is, why it was created, who created it, what they created it for, and what the dynamics look like back in the 1600s, the 1700s, and of course we get here to the 1800s, and then we have the 1900s where we have the Civil Rights Act in the 60s, Civil Rights March, Martin Luther King, off the chain, and then boom, here we have illegal immigration. Now, some of you do know and don't know that if you want to trace your ancestral lineage, you need to go to the Ellis Island, where that's where all of the immigrants who came to the United States of America passed through, and they all signed a book. Now, not all of them could write English. So a lot of times people came over with, that they were like Schultz. Well, let me not use Schultz. Let me think of a different one. Nunez. I'll just use Nunez, okay? There's a lot of Nunez's with a Z. I grew up with those Nunez's. Then there's Devin Nunez, who's a former rep and Viper alarm guy. And he spells his with an S. So a lot of times, and this happened to my family when they came over from Tarvin, England, right? So they're writing Richard of Tarvin, England, or whatever, Richard Tarvin. A lot of times when they interpreted Tarvin, they didn't read it, and it became Turban, Tarver. So any bastardization you see of Tarvin, because it originated in Tarvin, England, that's what happened. So everything passed to Ellis Island. So even back then, we had a systematic machinations of legal immigration of foreigners into the United States. So once they signed that book, they came here, boom, guess what they became? Subject to the jurisdiction thereof, right? Because they signed a book, they made an agreement with the United States, boom, hey, we want to come here legally, we become a U.S. citizen. How do we do that? Right? So if back then, if they, came into the United States illegally and had children, they wouldn't account it because they weren't subject to the jurisdiction thereof. And this is where we're at right now. Just move it up. More people. And I've said this a million gazillion times. It's logistically impossible to remove all of those illegal immigrants who've been here for decades now with the current system that we have in place, and definitely not within Trump's term. And now we're at war with the world, so everything else got to go on the back burner. Isn't that sad? Aren't we making America great again? Not. Wah. But in my little old humble opinion, having not read that much legal stuff in my life, anybody who comes here illegally and has children, you've committed a crime, and you need to face your circumstances and repercussions for doing so. And just because you came here illegally and had a child, your child is not a U.S. citizen. Even though your child may grow up here and, loves the Houston Texans and Dallas Cowboys and, all those professional sports, and they're rah-rah, and they, went to school, got the education, maybe even went to college, got a scholarship, became somebody. Sorry. It sucks. But it is what it is. The law's the law. Facts are facts. It's not like we're making shit up. Right? just like with me and my whole DWI and all that crazy ass shit and parole, that is what the fuck it is. It's not fair. Doesn't make sense. It is what it is. But that's birthright citizenship. That's what it looks like in a nutshell. Now, what is the United States Supreme Court going to do? They're going to drag this on. I would not expect anything. Their term ends May 31st. They'll issue opinions as late as August, maybe. I think they've done one in September.
Hey, Sasha, chill out. Did you hear me? Don't make me come over there.
She ain't gonna get nothing but hugs and kisses when I do get there.
Crazy dog.
So they're probably going to issue opinion, I'd say late June, July. It's going to cause some repercussions somewhere, some way. I don't think Trump's going to be satisfied if they overrule him. I think they may already be planning a plan B or plan C, whatever. But it's going to boil down to national security, and that's going to be the issue. And it's just more surveillance state. It's another excuse that they're going to use to put more, take more of our rights away, more of our freedoms, more control. I try to explain this to everybody. You guys don't remember this, and I'm going to go way, way, way back on your ass. Okay? Because when I was a kid in the 1970s, we had a gas shortage. Yeah. And you got gas on the day, like Monday was odd day, Tuesday was even, Wednesday was the odd day, Thursday was the even, Friday was the odd day, Saturday was the even, Sunday was the odd day, Monday was the even. And it just went like that every day. And what that actually meant was, if today's Friday, guess what? If you're on an odd number on the last digit of your license plate, you can get gas today. You have an even number, your last digit on your plate. I don't even think they had vanity plates back then. But yeah, and there will be a line down the street, every gas station of cars waiting to get gas. And they all had either an even number or an odd number. Now, I don't know that because I had a mini bike. And mini bikes don't have license plates. So I can get gas any day I want it. That's how I knew. Because I was living in it. I was in the middle of it. Now, imagine when the surveillance state starts and you go to get gas, it's like, no. You've already used up your allotment of 250 miles today or this week. We have to conserve energy. Got to be green. Take the public transportation, please. Would you like me to issue a bus route? All your connections? Just tell me when you want to depart and arrive. I know. Doesn't the future sound wonderful? This is birthright citizenship. Now, if you got rid of all those illegal aliens, there'd probably be some jobs opening up. Probably be plenty of housing. Right? Wow. What a different country that would be. Now listen, I have nothing against the illegals except, hey, you broke the law to get here. I wonder what happened if I broke into Mexico. That'd probably be a scary thing, huh? That's why you don't people see, it's like, let's go bum rush Mexico. Because it don't make sense, Holmes. Don't make dollars, it don't make sense. Make it jump. Make it jump, Holmes. Make it jump. So anyway, that's my little diatribe on birthright citizenship and what I think. And I don't know what the Supreme Court's going to do. I can tell you where Clarence Thomas is going. He ain't trying to hear this illegal immigration. You're born, drop a baby, and that's an anchor baby. Now everybody's citizens. We're gonna go home happy. Yeah, you can expect. I would say it's the linchpin's going to be John Roberts. He's the one that's going to go, and of course it's going to split. For the liberals and the conservatives.
I know, my point to you is, real. And when I tell you, why you guys, you had to, you are, you guys, and you walk in, and drink, you fucking really concentrate, about, this is my body, fucking my body, opportunity, legend, Texas on in LA.
All right, I'm plugged back in and live. For some reason, my avatar is showing. But anyway, thank you everybody for coming over here and spending your time, your money, and your energy with me. As Juan in the background. But anyway, I'm over and out. Everybody have happy holidays. Be safe. God bless you. And I'll see you on the next video. I have some other things I'm going to talk about, especially Iran and why that war is not going to be over in 2 weeks. Good night, everybody.